Hey everyone, hey Wellness Crew, and welcome to today's reading of Fragments of Light, Insights, Breakthroughs, and Epiphanies. And of course, this is related to the gene keys. If you haven't seen my previous videos about this reading, please go back and watch them so that way you know exactly where we are right now. Grounding higher frequencies. An epiphany, a breakthrough into higher consciousness, a peak experience, can really shake us to the core of our being in a positive way. Experiencing euphoric feelings and deep insights into what lies behind the veil of reality opens us to the other realms, to the other dimensions, to the truth. Over time, we realize that the world which we inhabit, that people take as real, is actually just a shadow of what truly is real. I find higher consciousness to be very compassionate. It gives us a peak experience, and then it leaves us alone to work out how to integrate it into our life. However, a peak experience comes to us, whether in a retreat, through meditation or yoga, or through working with a plant medicine. The real challenge is how we merge those experiences into our everyday lives. How we bridge the inner and outer, the mystical realms and ordinary realms, is one of the great questions of our current age. Some teachers don't focus on this. Perhaps when the teaching is taking place at an ashram-style retreat, when you go there and spend time with the teacher, who is in that world all the time, and then you return to your ordinary life. But we need assimilation time afterwards to absorb our experiences into our day-to-day life. The question is, how do we do it? Since I have to deal with this myself when I leave retreats, I have contemplated it quite a lot. From a heightened state of consciousness during the retreat, you then return to family and everyday life. That capacity for higher functioning may still be with you when you return, and you have to work out how to handle it. You have to find a way to seamlessly weave that inner shift into a completely different reality, where there are material and emotional commitments and basic responsibilities that have to be dealt with. Some people try to apply a new discipline to try to retain that state for as long as possible. Perhaps they try some kind of diet, fast, or lifestyle change that helps to maintain the clarity, the perception, and the thread. These can be positive changes, and in some cases can work. However, what we really need to do is find ways to normalize the frequency, not just keep it in that pure realm, which it cannot leave. In some respects, this is the opposite to what some teachers might say. I have an approach that came to me one day as a revelation, and it might be a bit radical: integration through play. Be playful. Don't be too serious or too severe on yourself or on others, and don't expect much of anyone else. Integration through play is about finding ways of bringing higher consciousness into ordinary life. That means you yourself have to be an ordinary person or play at being an ordinary person. Personally, I would not be too rigid or strict. I would be the opposite. I would be soft. I would flow. I would be fluid, and I would not be too spiritual. I would go out for a drink, maybe eat some pizza, and obviously not go over the top. Because coming from a pure space, you need to start softly. This starts to normalize that higher state into our everyday waking consciousness. I find this approach very helpful because when we come out of a peak experience and return to everyday reality, we often try to reinforce patterns in our life that keep it alive and keep it going. Sometimes we can be tempted to overshare our experiences with those who aren't as receptive, or who cannot possibly understand where we have just been. But peak experiences are not easily put into words. because they need time to be assimilated. So we need to allow ourselves that time for our body, our emotions, and our waking reality to assimilate that spiritual experience, and for the higher frequencies that course through our chemistry and our nervous system to be assimilated too. On the other hand, you might prefer not to talk about your peak experience, even to those close to you. It is up to you. It is for each of us individually to feel into and work out for ourselves. Give yourself that space. Yield to the experience and relax, so that those higher frequencies from the heavenly realms can start to come to earth. Try to find playful ways to bring that higher energy into your everyday life. You can't really make a mistake with it. There are no mistakes. While my children were growing up, I found that I needed to keep up my sense of play. And when I shared things with them, it was often very amusing because I was sharing things from a different reality, and so there was much laughter. It is really healthy to be able to balance the seriousness of what you have experienced with everyday humanity. Playfulness is the start of it. You need that playful spirit, that lightheartedness, and then you can experiment with how to bring the two extremes together into that paradoxical place of wonder. Integrating through play brings you to a more flowing and harmonious state as you ground those higher frequencies into your everyday life. For those of us who are exploring these realms, it is something to play with. Some of the highest work that can be done is to bring the path of the spiritual seeker and the path of the everyday together. It is the mark of the spiritual journey of our day to do just that. It is a cutting-edge teaching and something I will explore more and more as I move on in my journey as a teacher. It is a great approach to bring into everyday situations, such as your relationships, your working life, or any conflict. It may be that sometimes you want to return to the spiritual realm, but the trick is to bring the spiritual realm into the mundane, the material life and the emotional life, to breathe it in and bring it alive there. That is the work. Sometimes when I lead meditations, I ask people to open their eyes in the middle of the meditation. We could be in a deep visualization journey into the body, and then we open our eyes. When you are deep in a realm and suddenly you open your eyes, you stay in that realm, but you are both in and out of it. The more you experience that, the more you create a transition, a seamless bridge between the realms. Opening your eyes while meditating can be a powerful thing, and when you are not meditating, it can help you to drop into the pause and realize that you are actually in the meditational field, even though you might be outside it. You are looking out from the outer world rather than the inner world. The more you make those bridges, the less the mind distinguishes between inner and outer. And you realize that all the realms can be seamlessly interconnected and bridged. Your beautiful mind. The human mind is amazing. On one hand, it has the capacity to give us ultimate freedom, and on the other, it can trap us in so many ways and become a living nightmare. Awareness of how the mind operates and can be programmed and deprogrammed can open up new realms. Thank you so much for the like. One of the ways that the mind can be programmed is through our use of language. Pronouns, those words of identification that we learn from early childhood and take for granted, are interesting. I, you, he, she, it, we, you, and they. Thank you so much for the like. Represent 6 modes of identification, 6 layers of the mind, and when we consider them, they are extraordinary. The first layer, I, is what I call the wisdom mind. We learn and identify with the concept of self from a very young age. The wisdom mind is the capacity of the mind to merge with all creation. It is infinite and eternal, and it interpenetrates all things and all beings. There is nothing that can prevent your mind from going anywhere and being anything. It is permeated with the wisdom of the universe and is an icon of the universe. It can access all areas and therefore can resolve all issues, problems, and challenges that we face. This is why I call it the wisdom mind, because when we really understand it and really see the vast nature of the mind, what it can achieve and what it can know are awesome. On the other hand, if we look at I in a low frequency, negative light, it becomes self-sabotaging and self-destructive. And this is the first pattern that can undermine us. I takes on the burden of the whole world. I am to blame. I did it. It's me. I am the problem. It is a deep sinking into your own misery. Thank you so much for the like, because you take it all on yourself. You take the full weight of the world onto your shoulders, and out of that can come difficulties with self-esteem, self-love, and self-worth, which can lead to self-sabotaging behaviors and even self-harm, potentially. But remember that this is the wisdom mind, so at its highest level, I also has the capacity to know I am love, which is the highest capacity that any human being has. I am love is the great statement of the universe, of the wisdom mind. The Christ principle is I am love, and the one who can live I am love is a truly wise, limitless being. The wisdom mind has the capacity to break out and move through the patterns of self-sabotage that are imprinted in us. This is the journey of the I, the first mind. The second layer is you, in the singular form. This I call the freedom mind. The freedom mind is awesome as well. It finds freedom in relationships, through loving another on a one-to-one basis, through connection, intimacy, and looking into another person's eyes, really seeing them, and realizing that there is more than I, because I encompasses more than just what is inside yourself. I is also what is inside the other, inside the you. The Indigenous people of Australia have additional pronouns on top of the 6, and the one that I love is we too, or us too, which are a bit like you because they have a feeling of intimacy, but they are also different. You is bridging the gap between us. The freedom comes through loving, intimacy, and the connection between all beings. One individual unit connects to another and realizes that it wasn't all about me. I'm not to blame. There is more to this. At the lower frequencies, the you falls prey to accusation. So whereas the I can self-sabotage, look inward and curl up inside itself, the you projects the blame outwards. You're to blame, you. The you accuses directly, and all the passion of you can then pour out into a relationship and can become angry and destructive. You did it, you. And it requires the other person to be on the end of the phone or an email or right in front of you. It is very common to see blame projected onto the other as relationships break up. We project the blame from ourselves so that we don't have to feel it, because we are afraid of the self-sabotage. Thank you so much for the like. So we blame the other, and this creates all kinds of conflicts in the world and relationships that don't end well. The greatest beauty of the freedom mind is in its highest statement, I love you. In every language, there is a word or an expression for I love you. And it is probably the most beautiful statement you can utter to another person. Is there anything greater? It is selfless, and where freedom lies. The freedom mind connects through that intimacy and transparency. In giving another person your full heart and your trust. So you did it becomes I love you, I forgive you. And really you are forgiving yourself, but you are externalizing that as love. I forgive you. It is beautiful. There is a whole story contained in the freedom mind of you. The third layer, he, she, and it, I call the joyous mind. He, she, and it are interesting because they require a relationship to talk about them or for a writer to describe. He did this. He did that. He went on to win a gold medal. It is the storytelling aspect of the joyous mind, which is able to see others in a more objective way and then to journey through and explore all of creation, the animals, the birds, the bees, the trees, the hills, the rivers, the ocean, the sun, and the stars. It looks at the world, takes it all in, and is saturated with the beauty all around. The joyous mind can also become the complaining mind, where the blame is transferred to a third party. He is to blame. She did it. Again, the blame is projected out, but it is not projected directly into the eyes of another person in an argument as an accusation. It is projected as a complaint or as gossip. Have you heard what he did? When we complain, we strip the world of its joy because it is another victim pattern. And real quick, I just want to say that that is so true. Being in that victim mentality, being in that victim pattern, we are unable to take accountability for our actions. We're unable to take accountability for our lives. So it's really important when we can acknowledge a victim pattern that perhaps we are having. And complaining is definitely one of them. Because when we're complaining, we're seeing ourselves as the victim. We blame and project outside ourselves. And even though these are very human patterns and part of our humanity, each one is a journey that we somehow have to go on. And we then come back to the joyous mind, thinking instead, I forgive him, I forgive her. It then becomes he is love, she is love, which is a big realization and very different from I love you. When you say, I love her, I love him, I love it, you are seeing from a distance that the person or that thing is not what your negative mind believed them to be. That little bit of distance is magic because you are not directly engaging with them. You realize that everyone is like you and has the same difficulties as you. Joy comes from realizing that you are not alone. He had the same experience as I did. I really am not alone. It helped me understand. It helped me forgive, whatever it might be. The fourth layer I call the compassionate mind. This is realizing that we are we, and that everything we look at, the he, she, and it, the you looking in the eyes, and the I on its own, are all part of a greater we. That realization is a huge shift in consciousness, and you see that the pronouns are like octaves that resonate with each other. I and we resonate. You singular and you plural resonate. And he, she, it, and they resonate. So I becomes we, and wisdom becomes compassion. The compassionate mind is able to understand through empathy, because we isn't just looking at someone from a distance. It is an understanding that the other person is me, they are inside me, and I am them. That leads to compassion, which leads to resonance, which leads to empathy. He, she, and it, however, understand through sympathy because you are looking at that person with understanding. Ah, that person had the same journey, the same pain, the same struggle as me, and I can relate to that. This makes me feel happier because I'm not the only one. In the negative aspect, we becomes misery, hopelessness, and futility. We are all to blame. We did this. We're destroying the planet. Of course, conversely, it could also say, we can save it, but the negative side always collapses into the we. There are those times when we want to drag other people into our hopelessness, into our we, and as the saying goes, misery loves company. This can lead to a different kind of collapse, where there is even less hope, because everyone is involved in identifying with it. Then we don't hear any more messages of hope, so we don't resonate with them. Even we can't save the world. We blame it on ourselves as a whole, and that is really heavy. The beginning of the journey towards compassion is realizing that we are a we, and we have the capacity to awaken as a collective, not just as individuals. So yes, we are to blame to a degree, but also we have the capacity to rise up and transmute what we have done, to fix the problems we have caused, everyone working together to bring beauty back into the world, working as a collective, as societies, families, and relationships. Then it becomes we are love, which is possibly the greatest statement that any human can utter. Because while I said that I am love is the great statement of the universe, there is nothing more intimate than we are love, as everyone is part of the whole we. We are all love is the compassionate mind. Then we have the plural form of you, which is an odd one. I call it the abundant mind because it is a way of looking out through the eyes and directly connecting with the multiple beings and creatures out there, but in an intimate way. You, all of you out there. There is always a distance here, but there is also an interpenetration. You, plural, is the abundant nature of creation. Hi, Mac. Thank you so much. I hope you're doing well. Good morning. I'm so glad that you're here on this live stream. I really hope you're doing well. You, plural, is the abundant nature of creation. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I'm having a great morning, really loving having the opportunity to share some of the gene keys with everyone and being able to talk about something that I find is so helpful for personal development and spiritual development. We look out and we can see there is you, and there is you, and also you, and you, and you. And thank you so much for the like. There are so many. There is a wonderful abundance, a proliferation of connection, of relationship, an interconnected community of being. You, plural, sees how everything is interconnected, and the abundance and prosperity that creation can produce. You can look up into the cosmos and see all those countless stars, all those other yous, and know they are all a part of it too. On the negative side, you, plural, can become delusional and twisted. You are all to blame. You did it, all of you. I'm going to take my revenge on you. It becomes a complex inside us, a vendetta even, where you play out a pattern in your life where there is a paranoia underneath which makes you think that everyone is looking at you. You're all looking at me. I've got to behave in a certain way. I've got an expectation of myself, a pressure, because all of you are seeing me. And I think everybody can identify with this, that they have had moments in their life where they feel like everyone is looking at them, everyone is really paying attention. Yeah, it's just something that, we can all kind of relate to, is having that feeling of being watched and feeling as though like we have to behave in a certain way, or like we have to really watch ourselves, when that actually prevents us from being our truly authentic self. And it comes from a place of paranoia. And this is just something that happens to humans, depending on where they are with their mental health and where they are with their self-care. It can happen more often than not. I know that in my life personally, I've had periods of where I really intensely had this feeling of, oh my gosh, everyone's watching me. And the truth is, it's just a paranoia. It's just something that you're experiencing. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's actually happening. Because when you think about it, so many people are focused in on their own lives. So in the past, having those experiences, thinking everyone was looking at me, thinking everybody was, paying a lot of attention, that's not necessarily true. It wasn't true for me, and it's definitely not true for you. Unless you're exhibiting some type of like super erratic behavior or, super strange behavior or something along those lines, then yeah, that may be a way to get attention. But if you're not doing that, 9 times out of 10, people are not looking at you, watching you. They are so soaked up into their own lives, into their own being, into their own thoughts. So just because someone may actually be like looking at you physically, they're probably not even seeing you. They're probably just looking forward or looking to the side, just a natural thing, and they probably don't even see you. So don't allow that paranoia to sink in. And it can happen occasionally, but try to like limit that and understand that a lot of that is coming from ego. And when we're coming from a place of just ego, we're coming from a place that is really not the best, because what that can do is really warp our minds and make us think that we are the most important, that it's not about the collective, that it's not about helping others and bringing people together. And that's why these pronouns are so interesting, and Richard Rudd's explanation of these pronouns is so incredibly interesting. There's a huge pressure to be something that you are not, and to narrow down the abundance. You get caught in diluted ideas of what you think you should look like and how you should behave, and all the other shoulds. And it can be tyrannical, because you plural is about leadership. It is the view of leaders, and it can also take advantage of you. You, all of you should follow me. Follow me and I will help you. I can lead you. You plural talks to everyone like that. And again, that's coming from a place of ego. The other aspect of it is you are all love, which is like the Messiah talking. You are all love might sound arrogant, but leadership can be like that. It is not that you have to say you are all love, but it is a healthy projection. Every one of you, every little atom, you are all love. This is the abundance of the cosmos, and out of you, plural, come the great leaders and voices of humanity. In the same way, a really great musician or writer is connecting individually with all the different singular yous, and the words they speak and the music they make are going to touch all the different yous because they reach into your heart. There is a real beauty in the abundant mind. And I think we can all definitely identify with that, right? There might be a certain piece of music that just hits, that just really hits home for us. Oh no, it's just it's a super long blouse over another blouse. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Finally, we come to they, the silent mind. Thank you. Because they has true objectivity. They looks at everything, all things, all beings, and sees it all on a screen of consciousness. It looks at the thoughts passing across. Look at that thought. There goes a thought. There goes another one, and another. Look at them all passing in front of us. Everything is just a screen and the projection on it. And there is a distance, a silence where nothing needs to complicate life. And everything becomes simple again. In a way, this is a return to the joyous mind, because in that silence, in that witnessing, an awe-inspiring joy wells up. It might also be called the awestruck mind. We are all figments of mind, And all those thoughts that are passing before the screen of this consciousness are all theys. So there is an extraordinary witnessing in the silent mind. In the negative frequency, they becomes conspiracy. They are all to blame. They did it. It's them, the men in black, the government, the aliens, the cabal conspiring to get me, the gods. Whatever it is, there are a lot of them, and it is a negative projection that they have power and are trying to usurp us. They thinks, I've seen them, I understand them, I've seen through them, they are out to get us. And this is, of course, going in again with the paranoia that can happen to some people. Of course, there are some elements of truth in these thoughts, as is often the way with conspiracy. But if you make conspiracy your worldview, your mind will never be silent. It will never trust, never sit back, and just watch the projections as another part of history taking place, and let it all just pass by. If you are caught up with conspiracies, you have projected your identity into the game. Then you may feel as if you have the power to do something about it, and you are off on a mission. Let's go get them. You can see this in the world today, in all the thems looking at the other thems. Whether it is two opposing political parties facing each other, or women and men looking at each other saying, it's them, it's them. Whichever side you are on, when you look together as one group and look at another group, schisms and fractures are created. Excuse me. So look deep into these patterns. They are woven into the infrastructure of our brain, of our neurology, and you can be caught in them. If you see through the patterns, you will understand that ultimately, what they see is they are all love. Every thought is love. Every being is love. Every atom is love. It is all witnessed as love from a place of silence. And now this can be something that's a little bit difficult to grasp because you may have negative thoughts or you may have certain things that are pervading you. And it doesn't necessarily mean that all of that is love. It's just depending on where you're coming from your personal perspective of if you're in that victim mentality or not. There's a lot of things that kind of have to go with that. So don't take this literally as every single thing is love, because that is not true. He just means that everything from a certain perspective is love, from a higher frequency. So it's really important to make that differentiation, and I do want to make that differentiation, and I don't just want to blindly say absolutely everything is love, because that is not necessarily true, especially when we're coming from a negative mind or from a place of victimhood. A silent mind is the only thing that can see through the delusions, the hopelessness, the complaining, the accusations, the self-sabotage, and the conspiracy. Thank you, Mac. I'm really glad that you agree. And then all the 6 layers, the 6 minds, which are really one, come together in perfect resonance. The silent mind realizes that it is the wisdom mind because it is infinite. And then the wisdom mind realizes it is the freedom mind. I love you, I am love. Then the joyous mind wells up. He is love, she is love, it is love. And then we, the compassionate mind, we can do anything because we are love. Then you, the abundant mind, all of you are love, has a level of intimacy that connects. Finally, the silent mind, they are love. They comes back to I, and the circle is complete. All these different minds are really just one mind, but our language patterns have taught us to divide ourselves into these illusory fragments, when in fact there is just one whole. Perhaps now you can see through some of the patterns that you may be experiencing and may even be caught in. Seeing through these veils can really help you to find the vast and wider minds. The wisdom mind, the freedom mind, the joyous mind, the compassionate mind, the abundant mind, and the silent mind. It can also help to understand and increase your capacity for forgiveness, for love, and for joy. We are here to play roles in the theater of life, and many of those roles have integrity and their own dharma and karma. Whichever role you find yourself in, play it to the hilt, but see through it at the same time. Because there are injustices in the world, and a part of the human journey is to take on those injustices as we see them. That is a valuable and wonderfully empowering thing to do. Each one of these minds is a journey to freedom, to break through into a wider sphere of consciousness. So every step is of value. You have to make the journey to achieve the freedom. It is important to play the role that you are playing and to see what you are seeing. But at the same time, be able to see through the veil that you may be caught in, because then you can play your role without being overly attached to the theater itself. In other words, you know you are wearing a costume, and that gives you the freedom to play your role well without being caught in the drama itself, because then you are free. Each of us should feel free to play the role that we wish to play, and at the same time, your ears, did you mean your ear? Or did you mean here? And I don't know what you mean by ringing a lot, if you mean that to be, like as an expression or, okay. Well, I'm sorry if your ears are ringing, or unless this is speaking true to you and this is something that you're identifying with. Hopefully it's the latter. Each of us should feel free to play the role that we wish to play, and at the same time realize that all roles are ultimately illusions. Okay, that's awesome. I'm glad to hear that. Costumes that we discard when we die and return into the wisdom mind, the silent mind. So embrace your role and enjoy it. And Mac, I wanted to ask, have you done your hologenetic profile on the genekeys.com? Or have you done your body graph chart on ahumandesign.com? I think they would be really helpful for you. And as I, am reading each week a new gene key, you can kind of learn to identify and learn more about your hologenetic profile and things like that through that. There's also on like ChatGPT, or by doing your own research, you can also learn a little bit more about your specific body graph chart or your specific hologenetic profile. And these things are just, again, they're simple tools. Yeah, so you would go to thegenekeys.com. That's TheGenekeys.com. And there you can get your free hologenetic profile. And all you need to do is put in your place of birth, put in your birth time, and put in your birth date. And from there, it will generate your, and this is both true for human design and for the gene keys. ahumandesign.com is where I got my body graph chart, but you can get it from a lot of different websites. You would just have to search on Google or DuckDuckGo, whichever search engine you use. You would just search body graph chart, human design, and then you just go to thegenekeys.com for your hologenetic profile. And it really is helpful, especially as you're learning more about each gene key. Okay, well, definitely find out your birth time, even if it's within a few minutes, that's totally okay. But it does require your birth time in order to give you an accurate reading. So it's something that I highly suggest to everybody, just because it's one of those things where it really helps you with identifying certain patterns in your life. It really helps you with identifying really what you should be doing. And then from there, what you can do is always take it to like ChatGPT or something like that, have an explanation for you of your hologenetic profile. It's actually really good at doing that. And you can kind of go from there as far as the explanations go, because a lot of the gene keys the way that it's worded is very poetic. And sometimes people want to take this very literally, when in fact, a lot of it is figurative. It is based in truth and based in reality. But because it's so poetic in language, and because language is so important to the translation of this information and the transmutation of this information, it can sometimes, be a little bit confusing and feel as though it's a little bit, outside of our scope, but it really isn't. It's just the way that Richard Rudd writes, and it's just the way that he believes that the programming of language can really help to execute these ideas and help to proliferate these ideas. Sadness, aloneness, and creativity. There are times when we are with someone and times when we are alone. You may find yourself longing for more solitude and space when you are with someone, and you may find yourself at times longing for intimacy when you are alone. Often the nature of humanity is to long for the other side, which reminds me of people, right? People that will, be wanting wavy hair or curly hair when they have straight hair, and vice versa, right? That just happens oftentimes. It's the paradox, component of us as human beings. Your spiritual quotient, your SQ, which is really your heart and your soul, speaks of this very human dilemma. Having a healthy SQ means entering into a profound relationship with your aloneness. The beauty and the ache of aloneness in life are played out through the seasons of our relationships. The following passage is taken from the Gene Keys Golden Path Love, the Venus sequence. And as most of you know, I do have that reading as well, and that is public, of the Golden Path Love, the Venus sequence. So if you want to learn more about that, you can just look back at my previous live streams, and you can definitely check them out and see how that can be beneficial for you in helping you become more fully realized in your relationships. And it's mainly specifically for your relationships, so it's something that's incredibly helpful if you're having any problems in your relationships, or if you're just not sure where certain relationships are going. It can be really, really, really helpful. Aloneness and loneliness. Aloneness brings its own gifts, and one of these is an honoring of the sadness of life as well as its joy. As you learn to contemplate life in more and more depth, you will come into touch with the inner fugue played by joy in sadness. There are times in life when we are called to enter into phases of deep melancholy. Sometimes there are reasons, and sometimes there are not. At such times, we often ache with a kind of cosmic loneliness whose roots seem to go so far down into our depths that we wonder if we can ever be truly happy again. Such times can be difficult if we don't manage to maintain a sense of wonder and creativity in our lives. Without the creative process, there is a danger that we are pulled into the black hole of melancholy, which then sucks the life force away from us and leaves us feeling depressed. Once depression sets in, it can be very challenging to build up enough inner velocity to reemerge. So understanding that having melancholy, having periods of, sadness, and, being on the array and the spectrum of emotions, this is something that sometimes feels very isolating for some people. They may feel that they are alone, but really they aren't. Even if you're dealing with a mental health issue or something along those lines, you really are not alone in your feelings of, sometimes being joyous and happy, and then at other times feeling down. It's just a natural part of the wave of human emotion. And yes, obviously there can be outside things that trigger this, but that isn't always necessarily the case. Sometimes we just have changes in our mood and we're not really sure where that's coming from. And it can be coming from the chemicals in our brain. It can be coming from our unconscious, from maybe having something in the back of our mind that we're not truly having at the forefront, but that we're having in the back of our mind that is somehow affecting us. Almost all of life's greatest works of art, music, literature, and drama have emerged out of the genius of melancholy, or out of human beings who have allowed melancholy a deep place in their inner lives. If we are to rise to the peaks of consciousness, we must also hold a place for the nadir inside us. This is a beautiful and vulnerable process. Your SQ is a delicate balance of your intelligence quotient, your IQ, and your emotional quotient, your EQ, your passion and your reason, of shadow and light, of intimacy and aloneness, of loss and love. And when you do your hologenetic profile on the genekeys.com, in the Venus sequence, which is the love sequence, which this passage is actually coming from, it will give you that particular breakdown. So the emotional quotient, the spiritual quotient, and the intelligence quotient, which is actually what I'm studying right now for myself personally. I'm going through my hologenetic profile and really trying to grasp the full understanding. And it has been just so incredibly helpful and really enlightening. When you feel the call of your aloneness, then you must find a way to honor it. And creativity is the most vital and transformative way when you are following the path of love. Through creativity, you maintain a state of communion with your fellow man. Others can see into your being and take solace from the fact that there is something emerging there. It is a beautiful notion that an absolutely essential part of every human journey is to embrace our aloneness, our loneliness, and to go right into that inner solitude. As the poet Rilke said, to walk inside yourself and meet no one for hours, that is what you must be able to attain. To experience days in silence, in the vacant space inside us that many of us fear, and yet our creativity springs from that inner space. We just have to have the courage to embrace it and let it become a part of us. If we let it swallow us into fathomlessness, then the path of depression will be a difficult one. Now, this is not saying that you have to find ways to be in total and complete silence for days on end, right? Because for some people, that isolation can definitely be a negative, or can definitely drum up some painful emotions. You have to be willing to go into those types of emotions. You have to be willing to really face them in order to overcome them. And again, stripping yourself of that victim mentality, stripping yourself of that place of, blame and why is this happening to me and why am I experiencing this? Instead of asking questions like that, really connecting with that aloneness, that silence, even if it's not for days on end, because like I said, that isolation can be negative for some people, but having that silence of the mind, right? Understanding that this can be figuratively speaking. So when we find ourselves in that empty space, we have to learn to embrace it and use its energy. If you wake up in the morning and you feel that emptiness, instead of immediately trying to run from it, you could spend some time contemplating it. Go into it, find the softness around it, see that there is something beautiful inside it that may emerge during your day. There is an ember in there, an ember of light, of beauty. We need to find that ember and follow it, and then release it. There is usually a reason for feeling sad, but it is also okay to be sad for no reason. Feeling sad is part of who we are. The lows are part of the experience of being human, just as much as the highs. It is all about inner awareness, the equanimity that we must have so that we can hold the extremes and all the places in between. When we have equanimity, it settles us so that we do not swing from one end to the other, back and forth, and we are not attached to being at the high end. We can just allow life to play its music through us and experience the mystery of that. We do not get to control it, because it is the fugue and the melody of life. So oftentimes we're really trying to control things in our life. We're really trying to get a grip of things in our life. And I personally don't believe that having that idea of, wellness comes from a place of complete control. We have to understand that there's a lot of things that we have to give up to something else, right? That can be a higher power for you. That can be really a lot of different things. But understanding that we are not always in control of things, at times we can definitely be in control of ourselves, but we can't control the situations that are around us. We can't control the situations that we find ourselves in sometimes. And that's not taking the victim mentality, that's just a fact of life. We can't control other people, right? And the sooner that we come to grips with that is the sooner that we're going to be able to truly leave that victimhood status, to truly feel like, oh, why is this happening to me? Why are people doing this? Why is it that I can't control someone? You really have to let go of that. You really do, because trying to control other people makes no sense. People are going to do things of their own volition. People are going to do things because they want to do them. People may sometimes not make sense in their actions, or at least not make sense to you, but it may make sense to them in the way that they think, in the way that they are perceiving life, in the way that everyone perceives life. None of us perceive it exactly the same. We all see things a little bit differently. And that's the great thing about our individuality. But it also is something to remember. You cannot control others' actions or behaviors. Even as a parent, when you're raising a child, you cannot control their behaviors. You can try to guide them and help them see, the way that you would like for them to be, and really be an example for them. But that's the most that you can do. You cannot control, as a lot of parents know, especially if you have children that are in the teenage phase, right? You can't really control even your children. So you can't expect to control another person or another situation when sometimes these situations are completely out of our control. That's not to take away the fact that we do need to take the authority and we do need to be responsible for things in our life. But we want to take away the blame aspect, because that's where that victim mentality comes in. And that's where we can kind of get into that rut, get into that darker place, get into that victim, hood that is really unnecessary. All right, this will be the last section that I read. It's kind of like in chapters, but not exactly. The fear tracker. We each carry a finite store of fear inside our bodies, which is related to our karma. As we go through life and evolve, we work through our karma, and that store of fear inside us can be transmuted. The fear creates the illusion that we are separate beings. It creates a duality where we seem to be a you and an I, where we appear to be separate. But when we remove that separation, there is no you or I, just love, light, and interconnection. And of course, when he's talking about this, he's talking about at the higher frequencies, at the gift and the city level, not so much at the shadow level, because in the shadow level, we are not really able to see the gift in the city for what it truly is. But we do have to be able to understand that shadow level in order to be able to be lifted up into the higher frequencies and the places that will bring you more joy and that will make you more of a complete person and be more authentic to the life you probably want to lead. The fear is crying out to us to transform it, so we have to keep track of it and be with it when it appears. We can do this in two ways. One way is to wait for fear to appear, and since it is everywhere, you will soon find it, as life provides it over and over again by holding up a mirror. Of course, love is mirrored too, but because fear is in the body, it underlies everything. The other way is, instead of waiting for the fear to manifest, we go hunting for it, and we learn to actually track it down. We become a fear tracker. We ask, where does fear live in my life? Where am I most afraid? Where am I most unhappy? Where is or where is there most pain? Then we go towards that pain and fear. We hunt that fear down with our love, gentleness, acceptance, and contemplation. We find the fear in our body, and we open to it and acknowledge it and learn from it. We make a space for the fear to be felt, to be listened to and heard, although we don't have to understand it. And we can really get a good sense of our fear, or really get kind of connected to it when we're meditating, when we're in a contemplative state, right? When we're taking a pause. Triple Flame is a great app that you can use to take pauses during the day, to really spend time contemplating. And when you spend time contemplating on the things that you fear and really trying to face it head on, at first it is incredibly difficult. It really is. And it is scary. And it's like, oh my gosh, sometimes you're going to have all of these thoughts, all of these, emotions that are related to fear pop up for you. But when you're able to face them directly and head on, then you're really able to work through it. Because that feeling of intense fear, once you face it, it's not nearly as heavy. And this goes with a lot of things, right? Like when we finally face things at exactly their value, when we finally face things that we've been trying to avoid, we are able then to overcome them a little bit more easily. Because even if we may not fully understand it, we can accept it. And that acceptance is what leads us to be able to overcome it. We find the fear in our body, and we open to it and acknowledge it and learn from it. We make a space for the fear to be felt, to be listened to and heard, although we don't have to understand it. Fear is often multi-leveled, some of it coming from this life, rooted in childhood trauma, and some coming from our ancestors' trauma, loss, or grief. Some fear is from far, far back in our racial genetic memory, and we carry it on behalf of humanity as a collective fear. This is the deepest fear, the collective wound of all beings, going right back to the beginning of time. Using this method, we hunt the fear, and when we find it, we give it space. It is important to realize that all fear is finite, and this is an important thing to celebrate, because when you know that, you know there is an end to it. You must always keep that end in sight in your heart, even when you are deep in the midst of it. You allow it in, and you offer it up for the betterment of humanity, or whatever your heart wishes to offer, and then you transmute it day after day. We have to keep going specifically to those places where fear appears to be strongest, and we just watch it. That is all you have to do. It is like standing on the edge of a cliff. You don't jump off the cliff. You just stand there. You just go to the edge and look at your fear. That is all this practice requires. Just looking at the fear, and being with it will transform it gradually over the years. Through this practice, we are transforming finite reservoirs of fear, and one day we will get to the last few atoms of fear left inside us. These are the most stubborn ones. We must give these remnants our ultimate gentleness as they disappear into the vast light of consciousness that lives inside us, behind the fear. So I invite you to become a hunter and go and find your fear. Don't wait for it to find you. And when you have found your fear, be gentle with it as it transmutes. And you will soon find a miracle unraveling before your very heart. All right, so the next time that I read from Fragments of Light, we will start with the antidote for anxiety. Now, quickly, I just want to open it up for any questions or anything that maybe just your reaction to this reading, maybe just your reaction to things about the gene keys, or maybe just your feelings on it, and what it means for you, if you find that the language is difficult to understand, if it helps when I give a little bit more of an explanation, or if I kind of expound on it a little bit. just to kind of share my personal experience and how I view this. But I definitely wanted to open it up for questions, for anything related to this or even not related to it, especially since that's, what I'm here for. I'm here to be able to answer questions, to be able to be helpful, to be able to help any understanding, or maybe if there's something that, you're just not really grasping or are having a difficult time with, hopefully I can help you understand it a little bit more. Again, for me personally, I am still going through the gene keys. I am still learning to understand my own hologenetic profile. With human design, I'm still going through my body graph chart. So it's a learning process, right? When we see our lives as an experiment, I really like that idea of seeing our lives as an experiment, of being the scientist, of including certain things in our life and not including certain things in our life, of really facing certain things, of really being able to get to a place of authenticity, of truly being able to find our authentic selves. Because oftentimes we lose that part of us. We lose the truly authentic part because we allow fear, we allow negative emotions, we allow a lot of different things to kind of cover up our true selves and our true nature. Or we allow negative things, negative situations to kind of weigh us down and not be able to identify with our true selves or with the person that we would like to be. So if there's any questions or anything like that, I would love to answer them. If there's any comments, I would love to hear them. I can give this a couple of minutes, and if not, no worries. I just would like to go ahead and offer that up for anybody that has any questions or comments on this and that has any reactions or feelings on it, right? If this has been something that has been helpful, kind of learning more about this, if this has been something that maybe you've been able to find be a little bit transformative in your life, or at least being open to these ideas and seeing them not only as a literal thing, but also as a figurative thing. Like I said, Richard Rudd talks a lot in poetic types of language. And he does this for a very specific reason. He does this because, the way that we process language is very unique to each of us. And I believe that what he's trying to do, in my personal opinion, is he's trying to reach a part of us that responds to these ideas and these things. And yes, sometimes they can seem a little bit confusing or a little bit woo-woo, right? But in all actuality, it's just a different way of using language. It's something that, yes, when you are practicing human design, when you're practicing the gene keys, when you're trying to learn more about it, what you're going to learn is that you don't have to delve in super deep and do it in a short amount of time. This is a process that is going to be going on for years, the rest of your life, right? And it's going to be something that's going to slowly come to you. Occasionally, of course, you will have these epiphanies and you'll have these moments of extreme clarity and this real understanding. But this is more of a journey. This is more of something that is intended for contemplation, is intended for meditation, is intended to be something that you're going to spend time processing and thinking about, which is definitely why I read them in segments and I try not to overload with too much at once, because I really want that contemplation to be able to be a part of what you're digesting, right? When we take in new information, or when we're taking in information that may seem just a little bit different, especially when it comes to the language of it, or when it comes to talking about things that are spiritual, talking about things that are in personal development, talking about things that really resonate with our whole being. Just so that way we can kind of be able to absorb it a little bit easier and not take on a whole bunch at one time. Today was one of my longer live streams, but I just felt as though each of these components in Fragments of Light, I really enjoyed them. I really thought they were important. They really spoke to me, and I really hope that they really spoke to you. So if there's no questions or comments or any reactions or anything like that, I think I'm going to go ahead and end this live stream. Thank you so very much for joining me today. Thank you for the interactions. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and or join one of the membership tiers as it is popping off. And I will see you on the next video or live stream. Be well, stay wild as well. Bye.